Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Friday kind of random video that we do here sometimes. So today it's all about making a fade manager. So that is what we're going to be doing today. Then when I press on my button, it's going to fade my screen to a white, to a black, any color, could be another image even. So let's get started right away. What I am going to do is I am going to create a new script that I'll call fade manager. Again, I just like creating scripts that are static. Now I'm going to create a static instance of that, and of course if you don't like creating too many statics, I know I do a lot in my videos, but that's only because I like to call them from pretty much anywhere in my code. If you don't want to, of course you can just put it in somewhere else. Okay, so public static fade manager instance, and that is going to be setGet, as I like doing it, and then we're going to create a awake. So private void awake, and I'll just say instance is equal to this. And that's pretty much it for that. We need more fields, so this is going to be put on a canvas by himself that is going to have an image. The image is the thing we're going to be fading in and out. So we're going to have a reference to that, so private image, which we can't access right now because we need Unity engine.ui. So private image, this image. We'll need also a private bool is in transition, private float, transition float to know where exactly during the transition we are right now, and private bool is showing. You'll see why we use that in a second. And finally private float duration, so the duration of that fade. That's a lot of field, but we're going to be needing all of them. So the first thing I like to do is actually get a reference to that image. Now maybe I should make this public. Let's go ahead and make this public, so I don't have to do that in the awake. And we're just going to go put that on a object really quickly. So I will go over here, right click, create a new UI image. Now this is going to create you a canvas, of course. This is the canvas that is going to be the fade manager. We can also put the script on it. And let's just make sure everything is fine. So what we have here is scale with screen size. That's going to work with me. In fact, it doesn't really matter if it scales with screen size or not, because the image I'm going to be using, I want this to be scaling on both axes. So this very icon here. And then I'll just put everything on 0, so it gives you something like that. And that can be an image, that can be a splash screen, it's really up to you. For me, I'll be using a simple white color. Okay, so we've got this simple white color. This is going to be the fade image. And we're going to put it as a parameter in this image. Now this image might not be a good name anymore, but doesn't really matter. Let's change it. Fade image. Okay. So pretty much from anywhere in our code, since this is static, we want to have a function that is going to fade in and fade out. So I'll just create a public void fade, and I'll say boolean showing, and also float duration. So what you send to that very fade function is, are you actually showing a fade or are you hiding it? And then also, how long is it going to take you to hide or show that? So we'll say is showing is equal to showing. We'll say is in transition is now equal to true. That will be useful for the update that we'll put in really soon. And now duration is equal to duration. If you're confused, you can say this dot duration is equal to the duration parameter we get. And then transition is going to equal is showing. The transition float is what we're going to be using to control the lerp. So if you're actually starting from nothing and then you're showing the image, you're going to start at the 0%. And if you start from something and you want to go back to hiding it, you're going to start at 1. And that's pretty much all we need in here. Now we're going to do a simple update. So private void update. And we'll say if is not in transition, is in transition, so not with the exclamation sign here. If it's not in transition, we don't need to bother about anything, we just return. Fair enough. Now let's do transition is plus equal is showing. So say you are showing your fade. So if you're going from no image to an image, then you want to increment that transition float. So you want to say time the delta time times, and then I'll say 1 divided by duration. And that's what happens if you're trying to show your fade. Now, if you're trying to hide it, it's the exact same thing, but we say minus time the delta time times 1 divided by duration. And this should actually work. And once you have that transition float, this is where you do the lerp. So we'll go down here, we'll say fade image dot color is equal to color dot lerp, and then we're lerping in between a white with alpha and a white without alpha. Actually, it's the other way around. So we're actually lerping from a white without alpha to a white with alpha. So we do new color 1 1 1 and then 0 for the alpha. And the second parameter, we can just use color dot white. It's going to work as well. It's pretty much just, it says right here, solid white, RGBA is 1 1 1 1. And we use the transition float, of course, to lerp in between of those. And that's pretty much all we need, really. Let's just make sure we clamp it, though. So say we're past a certain number. Let's just make sure we stop the update. So if transition, if transition is bigger than 1, or, and now I need to do the pipe operators. Here they are. Or transition is below 0, then we can go ahead and say is in transition is equal to false. So we pretty much just stop our update until there is another fade that needs to happen. Alright, so that's a lot of code. We haven't really tested anything out. Hopefully we don't get anything that breaks. Let's look at the console. It seems to work right now. And here is what we are going to do. So in my start, or never mind that, don't do anything in the start. We're going to head over to the fade manager. Make sure the image has a reference. For some reason it dropped it, so I put it back here. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make sure that the alpha is on 0 at the beginning, so I actually see something. Alright, now with this code that we didn't really test out, and let's actually do that. So with this code, what is going to happen is that we have this function called fade, and whenever we call it, we're able to actually show a fade, but it does not automatically. You know, you only show the fade and then you're stuck there for a while. You have to press on something else to call the fade with the false boolean up here. So I'll quickly just test this out, and then we'll try to implement it in a more efficient manner. So if input, I'll just use my input manager, input manager dot A button. So if I press on the A button, it is going to do a, say, we're going to do, why is my IntelliSense a little bit weird? Indentation, I mean. Oh well, it's going to do a fade. We're going to start the fade. It's going to last 1.25 seconds. Now if I press on the B button, we're going to start a fade again. Then it's actually going to hide it, and we're going to try hiding it for 3 seconds. So it's going to be, it's supposed to be taking 3 seconds to actually hide that fade. So it's right now, it's binded on my A and my B button, and I will try it. And I think those are functions. Yep, those are functions. That's why. Alright, let's test this out. So I'm moving around, pressing on A, and it took 1.25 seconds to show this. And I'm pressing on B, and it's taking longer, as you could tell. This is A, and this is B. And now if you want to make this persist through scenes, all you really gotta do is make sure the object the fade manager is on is not destroyable. So you do a don't destroy on load in the wake of the fade manager, or on the object that is above it. So in my case, I've did it on the canvas here. But in our case that we just did, the canvas was the fade manager at the same time, so it pretty much works that way. So if you want to do this through scene, all you really gotta be doing is putting a don't destroy on load on the awake. And let's just have a look at what it gives us in a real context. Here's one. So it starts fading, and then I'll load a new scene, and it's pretty much just transparent. So that is pretty much it for the fade manager. You're just gonna be finding the places where you put your function calls, of course. And there's also another really neat approach that I've started doing on mobile game and I'm just talking about it, I'm not going to show it unfortunately because it's a really long thing, but right now with Unity we have the opportunity to have multiple scenes running at the same time. It's now possible since a few versions ago, and what I'm pretty much doing is, if you take a quick look, if I press on play, I load my scene. There's actually two scenes running on right now. There's the menu scene in the back, as you can tell, and there's my game scene, which is currently scrolling down and taking the actual camera space, and then as soon as the animation is completed, I delete my menu scene, as you could tell up here. So that is another approach that you might like. Instead of fading an actual white and then loading a scene, you could actually just have both scenes running and just replace what you see. So on the left screen, it's pretty much just seamless, and on the right scene, you can tell that we're actually loading a scene and then deleting it. So that was just another idea I wanted to add on top of that, and yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. If you did, please leave me a like. Really appreciate that. And if you have any comment or question or suggestion, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try to just answer them as soon as possible, if they're a question, of course. And other than that, please subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.